So welcome everybody to a Vwaza conversation. This is another music business educational content series, quite long, but today we should speak about music publishing, which is one of the best ways that an artist can make money, especially if you're a songwriter or a producer. So our guest for today is Nthangwanika Kondowe, who is with NewWave Group. I hope I didn't butcher your name, girl. And she is the co-founder and COO of NewWave. So I'll let her do an introduction and then we can get started.
My name is Nthangwanika Kondowe, but you can call me Ntha for short. I am the co-founder and chief of operations at NewWave Group. We're a music distribution and publishing company. We also started out with curation, so let me not forget that we also curate music here and there. We have playlists on Spotify and Apple Music, and we have, I think, over 100 published works now, I would say, give or take. I need to keep better statistics, but yeah, we've been doing publishing and distribution since 2022. So we've got some skin in the game now. We've learned some lessons along the way. Outside of that, I also am an executive assistant at an NGO called Malodo. So we raise funds for Mzuzu International Academy, Kwitu Kitchen, and Kwitu Community-Based Organization. So yeah, I'm an executive assistant there. So I kind of help out with management and synergy across the organizations. What do the programs look like? How can we build on our successes, etc. So I'm also a big sister. I have a younger brother, and yeah, I live with my mom. So that's basically me. It's a firstborn daughter, CEO and co-founder of NewWave, and executive assistant at Malodo.
Lovely to meet you, deputy parent, in other words. But yeah, very nice to have you today. My name is Kimberly Pokani Kaunda. You can call me Pokani. My co-host is Brigitta. She can also introduce herself.
Thank you, Kim. Hello, everybody. My name is Brigitta. Lovely to meet you in Tanganyika. Very, very interesting and busily they seem to be. But we're really glad you could honor our invite to share some knowledge about music publishing. I'm sure a lot of us are in the dark, so we're really, really looking forward to having an interesting conversation. I am the operations manager at Vwaza currently. So let's not take too much of the time with the intros. I think we can go right into it. I think the very first thing we'd like to know is, can you please explain in the simplest of terms what music publishing is? Most of us are like, okay, what do you mean music publishing? So I'm pretty sure a lot of people would like to hear in the simplest terms, what is music publishing?
All right. So we always say music publishing is the business side of music. But what that really means is, for example, right, there's chicken recipes and everyone knows good. Okay, when we're making chicken, there's like so many ways that you can go about it. But let's say there's a very specific recipe that someone developed on how to make that chicken. So it's not about the final product when you put it on the table. Music publishing is whose recipe is this? Who decided kuri ditile ntile bangono, ditile paprika yu, diwoche modele? That person who created the recipe of the song. That's what music publishing is about. That's the simplest way that I can explain it, right? It's the music business side of things, and it's about the recipe of the song, not the final product, not what you hear on the internet or what you watch on TV. It's who was in the room when that song was being created. So that's what music publishing is about. It's the recipe makers, in the simplest of terms.
It sounds like KFC to me.
I would like to
But
know the
yes,
I
hope you guys are listening in.
If someone has that,
I hope you guys are listening in and taking some notes so that you can ask all of the questions. And I'll let Kim take over here while I think about the KFC recipe, because that's all I'm hearing in my head.
Well, I think from that conversation, what everyone here would like to know, for example, later on, is how to sign up with NewWave. But I really like the way that you've explained and broken it down. So why is music publishing such an important issue for African artists, but not just African artists, Malawian artists, especially those who are just starting out and also the ones who are established?
I want us to first use the global perspective as an example, right? Not just African artists, but think of how so often, every now and then, you hear a story of someone who worked on a particular song and they were not credited, and that song blows up, and then they start getting touchy-feely. You see producers as well, falling out with artists that they've worked with for a very long time, like, oh, you know what, they weren't crediting me, and now, the artist's life has changed, but mine hasn't really changed, etc. So we like, as the African entertainment industry, we're just growing, right? We're now getting to that global platform, and we have to learn from the mistakes that, like, from history. Okay, Antoina, when they were starting out or working with musicians, working with producers, they weren't getting the music publishing in order. So in order for us to set up our industry in a way that is equitable for everyone who's involved, I think that's the best word to use to make it equitable, is that we have to be aware of where the music industry is coming from and what problems have led to the falling out and the misunderstandings, and realizing that music publishing, not crediting people, not realizing or acknowledging who was in the room when something was being cooked, is the reason that things are the way they are, why there are these different stages of, like, producers here who feel like they're not being acknowledged, or they haven't really, their lives haven't changed to the extent that they wished that they had. And aside from that, I think, like, you need to think of your catalog. If you're an artist or a producer, musician, your catalog is like your music savings account. So if you're not investing in your publishing, which is explicitly saying that I contributed to this and I need a cut from this, you're not building up your savings account, because it's like, one day you're not going to produce music forever, and even after you're gone, your music is still out here in the world. So what happens to those royalties if you're not being intentional about your music publishing? So think of it as building up your savings account. You need to be intentional with, okay, ka 50 wajaga galoa, ka 50 wajabo galoa, and so on and so forth. And from then on is when we're going to build, like, the culture of, like, African art being protected. So that's the first thing. But the second thing as well is just the acknowledgement that you contributed to something. That in itself is very huge. I can tell you, like, I was participating in something, and they told me she was from Ghana. So she was explaining to me about how um the big brands in America, like the symbols they use, like the McDonald's logo and all that, those are Ghanaian symbols. Like, in their local languages, those are things that they use in their local languages, like their symbols for something, like the way it is with Chinese characters, like part of an alphabet. And I'm like, oh, really? And it's like, yeah, so they came over here to Africa, they took our intellectual property, and then they left and they use it as part of their own thing. They have the trademark to that shape, and yet it's a Ghanaian shape. So it's stuff like that, where if Africa is now exporting itself and trying to compete on the global stage, we need to position ourselves in such a way that we know that this originated from Africa, that intellectual property is protected under African laws or guidelines. So that's really what I can say about, like, why it's so important for African creators to really get into, like, protecting their IP and getting into music publishing.
That fact
Sounds
right there literally blew my mind. You mean to tell me the logos we see are, I mean, it's nothing new, but I didn't think they even took MacD's like that.
Like, imagine a character, like, who would have thought of that? It's the craziest thing. And that's just, like, that's the tip of the iceberg, right? Like, so much of what's out there has been, like, taken from cultures, from African culture, and it's just, remixed by sea, and it's out there, and they trademark it. Kwaogo. So where you're a Ghanaian, for example, you want to use that symbol, you can't. McDonald's is gonna come for you. So if we're gonna let that happen, for example, to Amapiano, Afro beats, where we're working so hard to export that sound, we're collaborating with Chris Brown, and we're so proud. But Chris Brown takes that thing and says, I'm the originator of this thing. We're gonna have a problem in 5-10 years, So it's really important that, like, as an African creator with a global perspective, you're thinking of, if this is Manganje and it comes from Malawi, how can I ensure that this is protected, that this IP is protected, and you can identify with it. This sound, this drum pattern comes from Malawi.
All right, I didn't expect that kind of a bomb, but thank you. I think in continuation with that, what then inspired you guys to start NewWave? What gaps had you seen in the Malawian music industry, which obviously has similar attributes to other African countries, but specifically, what gaps did you see in the Malawian music industry that made you say, you know what, let's start a music publishing and distribution company?
All right, so I saw someone had their hand up. I hope they just wrote down their question so they can ask me later. But so New Wave, it's actually funny because how we started and what we do now is kind of like on the flip side in terms of thinking. So when I first started, the concept or discussing the idea of New Wave with my partner Nthangwanika Kondowe, we were basically debating the idea of Malawian sound. I had gone on a rant on like Instagram about, okay, I had the artist I was managing at the time was singing something that is not considered or doesn't fall under the norm of quote unquote Malawian sound. So we were having a hard time getting it on radio or promoted in a way that I felt was genuine to how they promote other songs, you know? So I was like, how come you're not pushing this person even though they're as talented as the next guy? Like, what is this about? It's just that, oh, Kongwadi, this is not Malawian sound. Like, Malawians, you don't listen to this kind of music, etc., etc. So I got really pissed. I'm like, okay, if I'm not going to be able to get onto existing platforms, then I have to create my own platform. So we started the playlisting. We used to do weekly playlists. We featured you a couple of times. And like there's many other artists that we felt like this is really good and needs a bigger platform. And also at the time, I felt there was a dependence on like radio. And I'm like, you know what? We can't just depend on radio. Let's try and go on an alternative route, right? Good, okay. If we can't get on radio, then streaming platforms are there and they're not being controlled by anyone on what's played. Like everything is there for you to choose and you can access like billions of songs at once. So I was like, okay, let's try and direct this traffic from radio to streaming platforms and get Malawians listening to Malawian music on streaming platforms. Don't just open that app and start listening to Ajina Beyonce and them. Like listen to Malawian music because it's also on that platform. So that's really what we're trying to do. We're trying to promote Malawian music on digital streaming platforms. So playlisting. And then I was managing a couple of other artists and one of them was outside of the country. So there's also another notion that we believe is that, okay, like we're no longer listening to that person's music, we're not promoting them because, well, they're not in Malawi. We need to focus on musicians that are in Malawi, you know? So I think a lot of artists probably that have left Malawi have experienced that way. They felt like as soon as they left the country, they're all of a sudden irrelevant. It's hard for them to get any airplay. So that is now where the distribution aspect of New Wave came from, because I was like, what if we got more intentional about distributing music to radio and TV? So even if you're not around, like we book you on like, you know, online interviews and whatever, we make sure you're not here to go to Kosoma by yourself, but I can go to Kosoma for you. I'm sure that's not a problem. So I looked into that concept. And at the time, I didn't even think of it as music publishing. I was just thinking of it like this person needs my assistant. They can't do it for themselves, but I can do it for them because I'm here in Malawi. So that's how, you know, I ended up doing my research and saying, oh, this thing has a word. It exists. Actually, it's music publishing. And then that's kind of how we ended up at New Wave: curation, distribution, and publishing.
There's so much that you've said. Brigitte, I know you want to add something. There's so much that you've said that I think you'll be able to answer in more details. I think a lot of artists like myself involved, I would like to know exactly how you work, right? But before we go there, we have a question from Industry Mindset, and then we can go to Brigitte. So Industry Mindset says, how do you protect a sound like Manganje or Amapiano in connection with publishing?
So different countries do it differently, right? But here in Malawi, for example, stuff like the anthem or what are these traditional dances that, you know, different, like Ajewa, they have their own, Adumbuka have their own. So there's stuff like that, right? Where it's like culturally focused, they're protected under the Ministry of Culture. So the way Kosoma protects, for example, your song Kim, right? Like we have this copyright registered under Kimberly, Pokani, Kaunda, and this belongs to her, etc. So the same way, that anthem, its copyright is registered under the Ministry of Culture, that this property is the property of Malawian people. So it's the same thing. But essentially, if something that you do is extremely unique in that it's under Manganje, but like the drum pattern is yours, it's just the same as registering it with Kosoma. Could this belongs to me? So I have done this pattern. So say Sonia went and said, I'm the originator of the way that this sounds, and he registers it under Kosoma. It means that he owns that copyright, which means that if anyone tries to use that, then they have to go through him or seek his permission first. So it's essentially like that. It's just that debating on whether do we group Manganje as one thing and then come up with maybe like a basic drum pattern and then register that under Ministry of culture, or do we say that a specific producer is the unique creator of that sound, and then they register it, and then it's protected under their personal name? So it can go either way, really. So from there, if anyone Kunja ever uses that drum pattern, then you know, okay, they're owing Malawi or XYZ producer royalties because they're using their copyright.
Brilliant answer. Yes. Brigitte.
Amazing. So is there like an algorithm or system, like a system in place, the way Kosoma does, on how they distribute their royalties? Like, if someone does use something that belongs to me, do you get like notified, or what exactly happens? And also, I think industry, what was the name of the person that asked the question, was kind of going in the direction that we wanted to go. Like, how does NewWave support artists and producers in Malawi in managing their publishing rights? And is there like a distinct difference between what NewWave is doing and what Kusoma does? How different are they? How alike are they? How can we tell them apart?
I think I'll start with how we support our clients, right? So the first thing that I always insist on is like education. Like, they need to understand what it is I am offering, what is the service I'm offering. Because like in Malawi, there's a lot of confusion. Like, people come to NewWave, they say they want music publishing. Next thing, it's management type of requests. It's road manager type of requests. It's always evolving into other sectors. And I believe that I was having this conversation actually with someone that I think even joined this live. I don't know if it's still here, Dali. We were explaining that the only way for the industry to grow, he said, that is like if everyone can at least stick to like a niche thing, right? So I always try to educate. Like, do you understand what it is I'm offering? First of all, this is not a record label. This is music publishing and distribution. So education is always the first thing. Do they understand what I mean when I say those things? Do they understand how things are going to be working, etc.? Do they understand how those things work within our industry and also at a global perspective, etc.? So then from there, it goes into the actual copyright management. So that looks like they're working on an album. So for example, I ask direct questions. Who are the contributors to this works? Like, who was in the studio? Who was in the room? What type of conversations did you have with your producer? What type of conversations did you have with the featured artist on this song, etc.? So from there, we're then able to go on and move forward to copyright registration, which is like, okay, I now have all the facts in order. Like, okay, so this song, there's 3 producers, there's 2 composers, there's 2 authors. Cool. We register all that information, we do the split sheets, and then we register them with Kosoma. So that's really what kind of is like step by step by step by step. And every once in a while, there's, a film or something, a series someone is working on, they want to use some original music. They come to us for our clients, we help them license the music out so that it plays in those movies or in those series. So that's kind of like the full picture of what we do. And then what was the other question? Sorry.
Sounds very busy, but also sounds very straightforward in the way you put it. I think, like I said when we're starting, before people joined, knowledge is power. You really have to know what you're doing and what you're getting yourself into. And then I think that really works better when you understand what is happening. So I hope artists on the conversation take that and really consider being on the knowledge side. That's why we're having this conversation. Kim, take it away.
Okay, so we have a question from the chat from Timothy Mizaya. He says, how would a Vwaza royalty payout work with the NewWave publishing collection with Vwaza's current setup? So how would a Vwaza royalty payouts work with the NewWave publishing collection with Vwaza's current setup?
Hi guys. First of all, thanks a lot, Nthangwanika and team, for taking the time to be here. I think you guys and us are going to cross paths at some point, and we want to work together at some point. So, oh, she just left. I think maybe her network tripped. But anyhow, I think the way that we can work together with NewWave in our current setup is that we are to be considered as one of their publishing or like destination for the works that they are doing. So that's how it will work out. So let's say NewWave, they have an artist who they're working with, and then they're looking for distribution or like publishing their work. Because I think the way I understand it is that they do publish on behalf of the people. So let's say they are publishing for an artist X, then they would have to submit the music to us through their, we are working on, something else in the pipeline, but they would have to submit the music to us, and then we are going to be dealing with the NewWave and not directly with the artist per se, because the person that comes to our door is not the artist, but the NewWave team that's going to be the one that's going to be, we're going to be dealing with. So in simple terms, whoever comes on our doors is the person we're going to be dealing with. So the NewWave this music to our platform. We are going to be, when the payouts are happening, we're going to be sending the payouts to the NewWave, and then the NewWave, I think, is going to take it from there. We are very flexible, so to speak, in the way that we can tailor-make solutions based on whatever agreement we're going to have, because I think we are dealing directly with artists at this point, but there's a possibility that we can be dealing with, I think, publishing companies as well as, producers and whatnot, or record labels, so to speak. So that's how I would try to attempt that question. But I think you have a follow-up. So you're saying,
hold on.
Yeah.
Before you go to the follow-up, I think, Timothy, to also add on to what Joe just said, because we are doing with, like Joe has said, we're distributing, so we can always refer each other's artists to the other, if that makes sense, because every artist now needs to monetize locally, and also every local artist needs to publish locally. So whenever we have artists, for example, on the on Vwaza platform, the next thing that we can do is reach out to you guys and say, hey, there's this number of artists who are interested in publishing. How do we go about it? And then when you guys are also approached with other artists who want publishing, you can then say, hey, there's a local, not just a local, there's Vwaza, which can, monetize your works, not just in Malawi, but across Africa. So I think that also adds to that question. Nthangwanika is back. I just wanted to check on that, make sure the main star is here. Is she here?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, she is. I can see
All
her
right.
somewhere. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
We're gonna continue with you shortly. Joel, you can go ahead, take the next question. Do you want me to read it out loud for you, for everyone to get into it?
Yes, please.
So his question is, for example, if an artist distributes to Spotify, they have access to editorial playlists and continent-wide markets with analytics that help us plan for what is next. And distros allow us to have to share the splits, which allow companies like NewWave to collect. How does Vwaza help an artist in that sense?
Very good question. And I think you also said something like, I'm an artist manager, by the way, so that's why I'm asking for clarity. So the first thing that I have to say is that we are still evolving and we're not a finished product yet. The way our platform works right now is that we only send payouts every month, at the end of the month, once every month. So it's also like very, I want to clarify that the way it works is that we are dealing with direct sales, and these are not like streamed or like paid streams, right? So if you're an artist, you are an artist manager, you put your music for an artist on our platform, then if somebody else buys, like let's say for $10, we get 20% of that, and then the artist gets 80%. So we're dealing with artists right now, but the way we do it is we just send the money out directly to whoever is in charge of that content. But I can promise you that in at the end of this quarter, we're going to have like artist or like record label supports, so to speak, so that you as a manager can log in and come up with an account and be able to add multiple artists that you're managing, and also have the splits in place, so to speak. Because I think we shared this with our artist community, where we talked about having also people who are producers be specifically directly on the platform. I think it's not something that I think we've seen quite often, or like it's out there that much, but we also want to credit the people that are part of the creative process. So right now, you only add them like on a text box saying, okay, this person was the producer, this person was the writer, and this was the performer for the music, for whatever content they have, but we don't have like contact information about all those people. So the way we're going to be doing it is also introducing that the people to be able to register as a producer. I think we've talked about this quite a lot internally, as a producer, as a writer, or like a DJ, or whatever you can be, you'll be able to be added on the creative process. And then the splits now are going to happen at the time that when you're uploading, you have to specify how much you want to give to this person, how much you want to give to that person. But that is part of the plan right now, which is to send payouts to the person out there. And I think you also touched on something on analytics. Yes, we do have analytics on our dashboard. They're very we've been collecting data, but we are working with people that we have right now, asking them about specific features they would like to see. So right now we only show you like, okay, where your music is being played the most, which by city, I mean, it's mostly location and people who are liking your music. So those are the analytics that we have right now, but there's so many, we're collecting a lot of data already. It's just a matter of like you asking us to say, okay, I want to see X, Y, and Z. When I want to see a chart. I want to see like the demographics in this specific kind of way, because as I said, as a startup, we're very open to working with people, our first clients, and understanding their needs instead of just us building features that don't make sense at all. So we have a couple requests that we're working on, and I can tell you, like, if you bring your artists and you tell us, I want to see X, Y, and Z, we're going to build it and we're going to give it to you. So yeah, I hope I answered that question, but if you can go ahead and ask more.
Awesome. I think that was quite concrete. We're looking at the time. We have about 30 minutes to go, and I'd also like to give people a chance to ask their questions so that Joel or Nthangwanika can answer. So I want us to continue with the conversation earlier with Nthangwanika. So I'm an artist and I want to sign up with you guys. What is the process? What do I need? And then what are the next steps from there? Could we get into those details?
All right, so you're gonna have to bear with me on this one because we are growing. So it's a work in progress, right? But so far, this is what the system kind of looks like. You approach us, right? So say you want music publishing or distribution services, you're releasing a project, etc. One, we want your commitment, right? So that's like an operational fee. That's what we call it, where we discuss it. It's equitable to where you're at in your career to say, okay, you're not earning over $1 million on your current catalog, so obviously it'll have to be less than that, but we just try to match it to say, what type of investment are you willing to make in terms of like our time that we can match to that operational fee? So essentially, that's the first thing, where we discuss an operational fee. And then we look at where your catalog is at currently. So we go and see, okay, are you currently on any DSPs, digital streaming platforms? Are you registered with DistroKid? Are you registered with Kosoma? How much legwork are we talking to kind of clean up, quote unquote, your act, and then see if that can be, a monetizable avenue for us if we distribute or publish your music. So that's what it really looks like. It's not about how your numbers are or anything like that, or what type of music you're making. It's not like that. It's literally just about, one, are you able to commit to an operational fee? And two, what's the current state of your music? So is it possible that you're able to adhere to how we want things to be, which is you have to be registered with Kosoma, you have to be on DSPs, and then we can get into business from there. So yeah, it's a discussion that we have, and obviously every artist is different. So that's really where we're at currently as NewWave. That's how you can get to work with us.
Right. I hope everyone took notes, especially those who are interested in signing up, like myself. Brigida, do you have something you want to chime in before we continue?
Okay, I just wanted to say something on what Joe said, and someone asked about the link between Vwaza and NewWave. If you could trace back to the conversation or the things that Joe mentioned, he mentioned something like, we're also interested in crediting the people that have worked on the cook-up, the recipe that Nthangwanika spoke about. So at one point or the other, we're really sort of like heading in the same direction and interconnecting or have a cross connection on what we're doing. And also I just really wanted to address something that Someone in the comment section said, I think maybe they joined in a little late, but Joe did explain that we have something in the offering for the people that develop beats, the producers, the beat makers that will also, benefit from the platform. And also, I don't know if Ntaya really addressed my issue. Like, is there like an algorithm of, if someone takes something that belongs to me, does it automatically come to you, like the way the digital audio fingerprinting system works with Kosoma, or what exactly happens? So that's just something that I wanted to get clarification on.
Okay. And also for me, just to answer that question, right? Like, we are a distribution company, so wherever our clients can make money is an option for us. That's a viable option for us. Like, it's a viable business opportunity. So with Vwaza and NewWave, it looks like one, Vwaza and NewWave agreeing, good, okay, this is just the same way we convince our artists, good, you obviously have to send your songs to radio, you obviously have to put your music video on TV, you obviously have to put your music on Spotify and all these things. So it's the same thing. It's like, we also have to distribute to Vwaza because of ABCD. So our clients trust our opinions, and what it looks like in future is, under our advisement, this is just also one of the distribution avenues that we should be pursuing or using, because it taps directly into the local market and we make money at a faster rate than we would on, for example, digital streaming platforms. So that's the connection there as well. I think someone asked that question. But like, so for Kosoma, or someone has used your work. So in Malawi, it's a very tricky one. I cannot lie to you, because unless you realize, Baweka, Kuri, this is my intellectual property, we're actually like in trouble, because one, Kosoma itself is not very transparent. That's the word that I'll use, about what system they're using to keep track of our copyrighted work, right? So it's like, okay, what system are you guys using? Because globally, we use the digital system. If someone is using my drum pattern and I just use Shazam, I'm gonna find that thing. You know what I mean? It's like, these are my songs. Even if people have used the same sample over and over again, if you Shazam that sample, all the songs that have that sample are gonna show up. But we don't have that kind of transparency with Kosoma, where it's like, even if someone is registering a song, Kosoma doesn't have a system that picks up on that automatically. It literally takes the original creator of the work going to Kosoma and complaining, Guri, oh, this is actually my work and whatever. So whatever system, quote unquote, they're using to keep track of our registered works doesn't pick up on similarities on its own. So it takes you as an individual identifying on your own, Guri, I think that is my work, or that is clearly my work, and then taking it up with Kosoma to find a resolution. So that's really a challenge that we're facing. Even us as publishers, we're pushing for, one, transparency, and also just a more reliable system. Guri, we can be there and see, Guri, okay, Dabanga register, and in good faith, we know, Guri, you guys are going to protect our copyright. Because I can tell you, I had like a consultation where someone is the original author, like she wrote the lyrics to like a very, very popular gospel song. And that song, I went to Kosoma, so I'm pursuing this. I've been consulted. It's like, okay, let me see what we can do. And I went there, and they just told me openly, hey, yeah, it's been registered so many times. We didn't even think to ask, like, who's the original author of these lyrics and whatnot. So I'm like, that's a problem. Like, that's already a huge, huge gap. And that's, in the gospel sector. So what more in like, other sectors, other songs where they're even more negligent, where in the gospel sector, it's already easy because the song title is the same. So already someone should be thinking, Kuri, obviously ngai song title indiji mozi mozi. Ndeti muli malaine na age munyimbo yi indiji mozi mozi. Anaimba malaine amene oni ndani mwanji dzina lao siri kupezeka on each and every single submission sheet at Kosoma. So that's really the challenge that we have with Kosoma. But like globally, it's much, much easier. If someone is using your work, it picks up on it. And like now, when you're registering your works, there's something called content ID, like please I can't stress this enough. If you're putting up your work on the internet, just pay for that content ID. You cry about the money later. It's like $15 or something like that. But no matter where that work is uploaded, where it's used, that money is going to come back to you. They can have the streams and the views, but the money is going to come back to you, which is very, very important. So at least on like the digital or global scale perspective of it, we're really good, but locally it's still a huge challenge. I don't think there's enough of us speaking up about it, complaining to Kosoma about it, so they're not really doing anything at a pace that is desirable. But I think to answer that question, I think that's what I can say.
Mine is not a question, actually, it's just like a comment. I can assure you today that Vwaza has an internal system that we use to keep track of music that has been published on our platform. And even though it's not connected to the content ID on the global scale, but on the local scale, or any song that is like uploaded on Vwaza as of today is automatically signed and digitally can be tracked on anywhere on the internet. So if you're an artist and you put your music on let's say you only put your music on Vwaza locally in Malawi. In this so many times that a lot of artists or a lot of platforms just show up anywhere in Malawi, and then they have like songs for these popular artists already, and then they're not following the proper structures, right? And or people like that, if you're an artist and you put your music on Vwaza and you say, oh, I know there's an artist that we've been working with who said, I don't distribute my music anywhere else in Malawi locally, and I'm only using you guys. And for an artist that puts their music on our platform, we are able to go and say, anywhere else that we put the music, apart from if it's on in Malawi, we'll be able to say that song belongs to you because we digitally sign and we have like technology that we've built in-house that is able to do that.
You need to lead with that, actually, like in your marketing. That's just advice from me, but like that's something that I think would mean a lot to a lot of creatives. Like just say that no one else can upload a song like yours. Like it happens way too much in this country, like, and it's minor things, so we take it for granted. Goody, who is the original creator of this line or this beat pattern or this? And like there's just way too much way too much of that here. So I would even say go as far as go knock on Kosoma's door and tell them, look, we have this solution and like we can offer it to you and see how it goes, because they pretend like they have things in order, but
their house is a mess. It's literally a mess.
That's what I wanted to share there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joel. We have two more questions, sorry, before we continue with you. Bernard, would you like to unmute yourself, please?
Sorry, yeah, I got that. Thank you. So I have like a double question. The first part is our distribution and publishing the same thing, and how related is it to like Kosoma, and how important is it for an artist to register with Kosoma?
Okay, so distribution and publishing are the same thing, and how difficult is it, or how easy is it to register with Kosoma? All right. How important? Okay. All right. Okay. So distribution.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, go on. I didn't let you finish.
Yeah, I was saying there might be an instance where an artist just distributes their music with maybe DistroKid and whatnot, but they aren't registered to Kosoma. So is it important for them, or like to have a Kosoma registration, or they can just go with the distribution and publishing? Like how do all those three like connect in a sense? Yeah.
All right. So distribution and publishing are not the same thing. Distribution is the act of taking your works and putting them up on different platforms so that you can increase access to those works. So for example, you put it up on a download site, you put it up on a streaming site, you send it to someone on WhatsApp, you send it to someone, you give it to someone in a flash drive. That's distribution. You're increasing access to the thing that you've created. Publishing is acknowledging who has created that thing. So publishing is now, okay, this song is everywhere, but who is the original? Because people can, distribute or enjoy something without ever knowing or caring who created that thing. You know what I mean? So it's the same when we're talking about KFC recipe. We know that it's that something something Sanders guy who was in the US. So that's what publishing is. It's like acknowledging who are the contributors of this thing and who is going to benefit. Now, why both of these things are important is because if you want to make money, you have to do both. Why? If you've distributed something successfully and it's earning money on those platforms somewhere, but you haven't done your publishing right, they won't know who that money is supposed to go back to. They're just going to keep it. It's just like, oh, okay, thank you very much. If it's us, we're holding on to it. And Kosoma loves that. So coming back to your last question, which is why it's important to do that with Kosoma. If you're a Malawian artist and you are, I don't even want to say patriotic, but it's just about doing things in an orderly manner. I don't see why someone would value promoting or exercising their publishing rights on a global scale without ever exercising their publishing rights at home. Like, you just have to be intentional enough about your art to say that it doesn't matter if I gain nothing from Kozoma, but they also have to be aware that this music is my intellectual property, this is my copyright, and I've registered it because it belongs to me. And like, it's about your priorities as an artist. Like, are you interested in making money or building a legacy? Like, all those things matter, and it might not matter to you now, but your music is gonna outlive you. You know what I mean? So it's very important that, okay, one, publishing, I acknowledge those who have contributed to these works. That's just bottom line. Two, distribution. I don't want to be the only person listening to this song, so I'm gonna make sure that I have increased access to this song as far as I can possibly do that. And then three is, what platforms am I using to make sure that this distribution and this publishing is not done in vain? So that's Ajina Kosoma and them. But okay, now it's a full circle moment that I've done this in my studio, but now if people are listening to it and if they're earning, or like they're, it's remitting money, then that money is gonna come back to me, and then I can reinvest it into my career, etc., etc., etc. So yeah.
I wanted to get clarity on. I think I can just hear the word music, music, music. What is Vwaza going to do with people who also do, let's say, poetry? Because I believe art comes in different forms.
Mhm.
People are into different arts. They involve music, but they can be fused. For example, there are visible collaborations of musical artists and poetry. Where does poetry stand in all this?
Kim, you want me to take that one?
I was gonna take in a nutshell, but you can take it, Joel. In a nutshell, Vwaza is not just Vwaza music; it's actually Vwaza multimedia, which incorporates the different forms of media that you've mentioned: poetry, music, the producers, and the likes. So I'll let Joel take the rest of it, but I wanted to point out that Vwaza is actually Vwaza multimedia, and that the Vwaza music is just the aspect that we're really focusing on right now to introduce ourselves into the market before we start expanding into the other areas. Yeah, Joel.
I just wanted to say something before Joel's goes and adds to whatever Kim has said. Like we mentioned earlier, we are still evolving. We're not here done and dusted. And as Kim has put it simply, we're a multimedia company. We're not only limited to music, but for now, that's what we're trying to perfect, and then we'll move to the other sectors. So we are very confident that that will cater for the different forms of art that are there.
I was so excited to answer your question because that kind of reminded me of the vision for the company itself. So, as of today, I keep saying like as of today because, as I say, there's so many features that are hidden behind what we call feature flags on Vwaza. Right now, on the dashboard, we do not show you how to, like on our Vwaza Studio, dashboard, we don't show you how to upload poems or poetry, but it's something that actually, if you told me to activate right now, I would do it. But it was so niche in the very beginning because on our marketing efforts as well, we thought about, we don't want to go have different voices on how we can promote the product or the products we're offering. So we decided to say, okay, we're going to, hide the poetry section of it and then just focus on going towards the music aspect. So Vwaza Music is a product of Vwaza Media, and down the line, you're gonna start seeing us venturing into Vwaza podcasts and Vwaza TV. We have all those in the pipeline, and it's a vision that it's a long-term vision to get. It's a long-term vision to make sure that we undertake or like we dominate or at least be one of the industry leaders when it comes to the multimedia business in Africa. That's the goal. So I can just stop there, but if you want to have like poetry, enabled for you, we can enable it right now and we can take it for you. So yeah, but we're not just music. Yeah, I think there's someone else who also has got their hands raised. Yeah. Oh.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Let's have Robert. Robert, if you're ready, please unmute yourself.
All right, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I don't know if mine is a question, but I just wanted to say that maybe, I don't know if maybe some of you have ever thought about it, that let's say just think about it right now. If maybe someone asked what are the top 10 songs in Malawi, like this week, like based on actual data from DSPs, radio, or social media, we honestly wouldn't know. Like we don't have,
people who can answer that.
we have like no official chart company in Malawi. And like maybe in the past, we used to have the MBC Top 20 back in the days, like in the 90s and early 2000s. So looking at Kosoma probably handles things in a broader aspect. They don't really handle the music side, mostly the broad aspect. Don't you think maybe it's high time we pushed maybe for creating a proper charting system that can help maybe track music performance, and that can help in terms of maybe royalty distribution and the transparent and fair publishing, this like being able to be more like fair and transparent in terms of royalties and publishing.
Yeah, so we have charts. The download sites have their own charts. I've seen To The Top has a weighted chart where they use YouTube and streaming platforms. I think just Spotify. I'm not sure if it's all of them or it's just Spotify. And then Vwaza has a chart. So like Zone Say Live used to have a chart. So a lot of people have done the chart system, but now it needs to be incorporated with like an existing platform that has access to more artists, because the problem is your chart is only as effective as the audience pool, like the data that you're pulling from, right? So like you're saying, if Kosoma had a chart, then it would be more effective because they have more musicians and stuff like that. So I think that is a conversation that would need to take place at like a larger scale, because many players have to come together and kind of agree, Kudi, what are the parameters to say, Kudi, okay, this chart system is fair? Because that's always the conversation. To this day, even Billboard has these conversations. They just changed one of their systems right now where it was like, an artist would release the same album multiple times with like 1 or 2 extra songs, and then it would contribute to like, oh, this album has been charting for like 500 weeks or something. So stuff like that, it's always up for discussion. So which means people who are interested in developing a chart system have to be intentional in such a way that, one, artists are in the room, then managers and all other contributors like us and music publishers and all that are in the room, Kosoma's in the room, Ministry of Arts and Culture, the Department of Arts and Culture is in the room, and then we're having the conversation to say, what does the chart system look like? But I don't think that it's fair for a chart system to inform like on like the royalties that artists get. Like I feel like those are very two separate things, because why do we get paid royalties? It's the usage of the song. A chart system is about the popularity of the song. I don't know if that makes sense, Robert, but they're not the same thing. Charts are advertising popularity. What are people listening to the most? Royalties is about usage. You have used someone's work, right? You've used someone's work, so you have to pay them. You have to compensate them for that work. So, sorry, you're breaking. Am I breaking?
But we can now hear you.
Okay, yeah. So I think my Airtel network is really just being a headache this week. So I think just to wrap up, that's really what I'm trying to say. It's like a chart system is effective for, yes, comparing which artist is doing, fairly well compared to others, etc. But for paying out royalties, it has to be a little bit more basic, like basic. what is the frequency of the usage of this song? It's not the same thing as like a chart of like how popular is this song. So I think right now I would say maybe Kukosoma, they actually use a chart system, because they just go around and say this, you know, this song was so popular, and then all of a sudden 6 million or whatever, stuff like that, where we're not really sure, Guri, how is this coming along? Because I can tell you, Guri Kunja Kuja, there are people who are not popular but earn more money than popular people because of the way that their works are being utilized. The system is so fair or so equitable that you don't have to be famous to earn a lot of income from your from your copyright work. So I think, yeah, that's what I can say on that one.
Yeah, but I think we can't rule out the importance of the charts, because at the end of the day, they directly or indirectly help in the loyalty ecosystem. Because if maybe, let's say, for example, chart-topping songs are more likely to be picked by commercials, films, and all those media products. So I think it's quite important to have a aggregated, like a official chart company, because it's, as I've said, it's very important in terms of the whole ecosystem of loyalties and publishing.
Yeah, so I would say, like I mentioned, those players at the beginning of my answer, you should go check them out, because they are doing that, and it might take some time for us to get to that level of like, oh, recognizing them as Billboard, but it takes people like you and me acknowledging and accepting that chart they're putting out. Good, this is how things are going right now in the industry. Yes, this song is actually this popular right now, because that acknowledgement is what legitimizes those charts. So it takes us as the general population, general audience, accepting that chart system. And then when big players come on, like the Kosomas and whatnot, because even if Kosoma came up with their own chart system, trust me, they would have a problem. If people don't know how it works, they're not transparent. People will scroll and go on about their lives. So it's like tit for tat. You also have to, acknowledge the people who are currently doing it. If you want it to grow, popularize it. If you're passionate about that, then it's up to you to tell Antoina, oh, have you seen to the top Yilindi chart system? You know what? It's very accurate and it's actually keeping track of this. Then John Hayamba Wuzi one day chart system. You Google and Hasbanga rely on that chart system. So yeah, it's kind of like that's what I can say.
Awesome. Oh my God. I think we should have another conversation on the chat system in Malawi, and if it would be a beneficial thing. So we shall continue this at another point. But I think if we were to introduce the charting system, it would really skew in terms of the genres that we already support and those that are not supported. I think that would be interesting. So now we're going to have this conversation again some more later. Just bookmark it. I want us to give Timothy a chance before we close up the session to ask his question. And Danton, you're not unmuting your microphone, so I'm not sure if you were clapping or you were really raising your hand.
I'm alive.
Timothy, you're alive. Go ahead.
Okay, fine, thanks. My question is, I don't know if you talk about it or else maybe I missed it. But then my question is, if someone else wanted to maybe to publish the project to Vwaza, so maybe it is having some copywriting elements, maybe some international or locally. How are you going to take the action, like in terms of those projects? Like I'm going to publish the project to Vwaza, and it has some copywriting issue, which maybe I can't even recognize, but you recognize it. How are we going to take the action?
Good question. So before we as a company, we have a copyright license from Kosoma, right? So meaning that we have the right to distribute music on behalf of whoever the person is. So of course we cannot know automatically, or like just I think we had like something like that quite recently, where a person uploaded their song and then someone also said, okay, they sent us a request via our support system saying, I did not authorize, I'm a featured artist on that song, but I did not give my rights to that song. So our legal team, we have an internal legal team that works together. We work together to figure out a solution tailor-made for that. But one of our immediate actions is to take down the song while we are doing the investigation and figuring out, okay, if this song has copyright issues, then we are going to make sure that we have to take down that song. And for some for whatever reason, let's say you were monetizing the song, we have the mandate to actually take you to court, because every time that you're uploading the song, you have to agree to the terms and conditions that Vwaza provides, right? And because of that, we have to make sure that you as an artist, of course, people don't, most people don't read these terms and conditions. But I really encourage everybody to read these terms and conditions to the T. And when you do that, you understand that we have the right to actually take you to court and make sure that you pay for it, because we owe it to Kosoma. We have the license and we have all the legal requirements to do that. So that's how I can respond to you. And if you see any song that is like having copyright issues that we cannot identify automatically on our side, then reach out to us. We'll take down the song and we'll have like our legal team work on it and, you know, assist in the best way possible. Okay, we have another industry Malawi, but I think I want to take the question from Timothy first, and then we can close with industry mindset. Please, Tim.
All right, we have 5 minutes. Please, let's keep it nice and not too short, but short enough.
All right. Yeah, thank you guys for this chat and this opportunity. For NewWave, my question was, I work with NewWave on certain projects with the artists I work with. But I just wanted to ask for the public, for knowledge and everybody to know, what's the length of publishing collection? Is it for life, or do you guys do per particular lengths of time? And how then do you also work with other publishers? Because I know there are the famous ones, BMI and ASCAP. Is there like a relationship you guys can have? Or if maybe artist X wants to do a deal with NewWave, then it's NewWave's job to register that artist to BMI and ASCAP. That's to NewWave, to Vwaza. I've been watching you guys for a while, and you know, I love disruptors, and I love the fact that you guys are in this space and everything that you're doing. I think my hesitance, which is also, I guess, my question, has been on, I asked it at first, the value proposition, because I want to see the platform win. At the same time, I also want to see my artist win, you know, and so I think for the most part, it seems a little limiting that the focus is only in Malawi, while the other platforms are giving us focus on, you know, a continental perspective. No matter how, I guess, small the artist is, if you do it right, you get the opportunity to be heard. So for example, if you are an artist with maybe 10,000 listeners on Spotify, but if you do request for editorial playlist maybe 3 weeks before you release, your song can be on the same playlist as Davido's song. You know, now you get the advantage of, you know, being on a Nigerian playlist or something like that. And so I think the question has been answered to say you guys are a startup and everything of that nature. But I think my question remains, I do not know how I'm asking this. So yes, you are a startup, but what is that value proposition that should, you know, want me to do a Mazani where I drop exclusively with you guys before I post it elsewhere, which to me looks like I am killing my other platforms where I can, you know, get the notoriety. I don't know if you get what I'm trying to say. Like, I love what you guys did with Mazani, but like, how can you encourage other artists to do the same that will give me the yeah, just what I would. But you get what I'm saying?
Can I also just throw my question just to like pile it in?
Okay.
My question is just on advice in a way for someone who's doing publishing. Do you think they will be required to have this license, the one that you and NewWave have, because you guys have platforms where you're playing the music and stuff? Is that what prompted you to get a license, or would you also suggest that a publisher, someone who's publishing for artists, to also get a license? That's what I wanted to know.
Yeah.
That's with Omaya, like, yeah.
Yeah, I think I can take it because I have to jump, and then Nthangwanika can finish off. So, Tim, I think to answer your question, I think there are two ways. What Vwaza is coming in the market to do is to give the listener, like the artist, the chance to make money out of their art. So you have a choice to make, and I think you whatever you decide is up to you, right? So do you get to, for example, I think what we did with Mazani, and I think we have also did it with Slicer, just to mention a few, is that if you're an artist, let's say you are Praise Umali, right? You are Praise Umali and you have, I don't know how many followers or fans in the country that, you know, are really your true fans that can buy your music. If you put it on Vwaza, let's say you're dropping the album today, the number of people who are going to buy that album, I think is going to, not I think, because we have actually done it before, we have the numbers, is that the number of people that buy your music, I think is going to surpass the number of money the amount of money that you can make from having your music being streamed or a playlist like the way you have it on, I think, Spotify or wherever, right? Even the first week, because we have done it before and we have seen it to say, okay, the numbers that you can, it's like about also, it's also about, do you want to have like 10,000 streams on Spotify and DSPs and calculate the amount of money that you're going to make from there and compare it to having you putting your song on Vwaza for $1 and having 100 fans buy that song directly and you get like $80 from that. So we are also in the business as well, figuring out, okay, trying to help artists who are not just looking to, you know, make a quick buck, but also want to grow with them in a way, because yes, you can chase the numbers. You have like 20,000 streams or 50,000 streams on wherever. And I've seen this quite a lot from my perspective as well, that a lot of our artists, especially in Malawi, they always chase for the numbers. They say, oh, I have like 100,000 views on YouTube, but what is the value that you get from that? Right? That's also the thing that you have to ask yourself as an artist. What is the value that you get from that? Oh, I have 50,000 streams on Spotify. What's the value that you get from that as compared to saying, I'm going to put my music on Vwaza for $1 or $5 because I know that my fans who love me, or like Mazan when it dropped, a lot of people were like buying the song. I think the first song that we had, a lot of people bought his song. And when Slicer dropped his album, it didn't matter where, because of course we saw some people asking like, oh, why not putting on DSPs or whatever? But we saw his fans who came to our platform and our traffic was like going up and we're able to maybe get all of that because people were like, okay, this is Slicer, we believe in his music, hasn't dropped yet. And people were able to listen to his song and, you know, had like his like outcome. So to answer your question, the value proposition is, I think you have to look at it from both perspectives to say, okay, where do I want to put my music? We're not saying that you shouldn't put your music on Spotify. We can't say don't put it on DSPs. But the question is, you as a creative, you as an artist, you are putting in money to make the art. And at the end of the day, are you gonna chase just for the streams that are gonna make you look cool? And then even if you have 50,000 streams, how much are you gonna get? Because if you look at the algorithm that is used to calculate all this money, it's also based on location, how many people are streaming your music from which location. But for us, we don't really care about that because if it's a fixed price, $1, you pay 1,800 kwacha and you get it, and that's it, off you go. So just to summarize, I'm gonna give an example of Praise Omali or Lawi, whoever. You're Praise Omali, you're dropping your album. You say, I'm not gonna drop my album anywhere else. I'll put it on Vwaza for the first 2 weeks. And guess what? I think you're gonna make more money in those first 2 weeks than you can make in a long period of time on DSPs because people are gonna follow you. And it's not only for the big artists. We're also talking about small artists who are like building their audience and stuff. So that's the value proposition that I can give to you to say, it doesn't matter where, you can do your own research and try to experiment. And I encourage you to do the same thing. Try to experiment with us and see how it's
yeah, I think, Joe, sorry, I agree with what you're saying. I think what I agree is you don't have to specifically choose a platform.
Yes.
You can do both places. And I'm asking because I have done one song a year before on the platforms, which has gotten us over $1,000.
Right.
You know, and that song has continued to feed this artist, and artists are not going to do nyimbo ina pena. So you see the value. And it's. I think what you're saying is, if Vwaza would give you 10 paying artists, while the streaming platform might give you listeners, which is something that is true. However, from my viewpoint on the streaming platforms, has also been the perspective of the listeners building a cult following. And so you are growing with them. And no matter what it is that, no matter the little money you're making on streaming platforms, which in my perspective hasn't been little, like since last year, November, there's an album with one of the artists that I work with has been dropped. And then a single with an artist that I work with has been dropped. And all those have given them a little over $2,000. And this is in the gospel space, you know? And so you're looking at something like that, and they're also growing in their fan base. But I think what I agree with a lot with what you say is the system of in the Edomani Yanga, the Gule Naba Myanga needs to go. You know, we can't be doing that anymore. Maybe putting the album specifically to Vwaza for that local payment, and then also the streaming platform. I know you guys can't tell me the numbers. I would really love to know how Mazani did, you know, but it is what it is. But yeah, that was my question, and thanks for the response.
Yeah, and just, I mean, I know that we're over time. Just give me 1 minute, Kim.
1 minute, Joe. Let's go.
Yes, 1 minute. The end goal for Vwaza is not just to sell music to Malawi. The end goal for Vwaza is to export the talent that we have in Malawi to the first world countries. And this is why Vwaza is also registered in the United States, because we know that based on the data that we have done and research that we have done, we know that there is a growing, need for talent, or like for African music, so to speak, right? So we are building an audience right now, but the end vision and the end goal is to take that audience, to take this talent that we have and sell it on the international market, because we know that those people are willing to pay for that music, and they are going to. And I think we can have a debate on direct sales and versus streams. However, we can go for it. But I think at the end of the day, it's all about, the preference that you get. Do you want to be tied to paying for, a subscription as a listener, or do you want to have like music on it? So it's up to you. But I think you and I can have a conversation around this, Kim. So just hit me up.
I just wanted to say that the real context of everything is that all our African, like what Nthangwanika mentioned at the start, to say all our art is currently on international platforms. What that means is the money, the revenue that is being generated is not benefiting us, it's benefiting those international and external platforms. So while you look good with Spotify numbers, the money is not circulating in the local economy. It is also not benefiting the artists in the immediate term. So Vwaza is coming in to help artists to answer the monetization question. Until Malawi is monetized, you have Vwaza, where you can convert your talent into money that you can use on a monthly basis. So we can continue this conversation another time. But thank you to everyone who attended today. We're going to have a copy of this on our YouTube so you can listen to it again. But most importantly, with NewWave Group next week on the 30th of April. Is it May? April. Please make sure you show up. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Nthangwanika, go ahead. Do you have any final words that you'd like to say?
Yeah. Should I still answer Timothy's question? Dali's question, but yeah.
Go ahead. And then,
I mean, we would love for our contracts to be Bagamuyaya, but we're easing Malawians into it. This is like pretty new. I liked that, the caption you used, that this is the only music publishing company in this country, and that is 100% true. So like we're easing people into it with like 3-year contracts, etc. But like ideally it means that we're going to work really hard for that song to make money in those 3 years that we have. So it's up to you to extend the contract or, renew your contract. That's up to you. So that's really what I can say on that. And on like international platforms like BMI and ASCAP, which are like music publishers, but like on a global scale, right? So they're not tapped into just the Kusoma of their country, but like they work all over the globe with platforms like that, which exist, right? So for NewWave, we're looking at your current statistics. If you don't have listeners in Europe, in Asia, in the US, we're not going to recommend that to you. But if you do, then obviously that's an avenue that you think we should go for, because it means you're leaving money on the table. We're not collecting all the royalties from those regions. So that is an avenue that we then explore if you have listeners from those regions. And I think at a new wave level, investing into those platforms is not something we're doing at this time, but it's always much easier for like our individual clients to get registered onto those platforms, because it's usually either free or like a very low cost, around like 50, 75, $100. And then you have access to like a really, really big music publisher. And even in our current agreements, we explicitly say that we work in the Malawian region. And then it means that it's really convenient for you, because then you can have a global publisher and a local publisher. So to wrap up, New Wave is always here to teach. Like, we won't be able to work with everyone, but we're always willing to teach. We had our workshops, and out of that we have an online platform that has all this information. Everything you're asking, everything you're talking about, any question you can think of is available on that educational platform. It's learn.newwave.mw. So you can visit that website and you'll find all the answers that you're looking for. And if you don't find it, please tell us so that we can put it up on the platform for you, because it's free. There's English and there's Dijewa as well. So make sure that you check it out. Tell a friend to tell a friend. And thank you very much for being a great audience. It was a pleasure and an honor. I know my PR person is super excited that I was outside today. So thank you for the opportunity.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. You've been with me, your host, Pokani Kaunda. Until next week, have a good evening.